Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to Sea Trek TV. My name is Casey and I will be your host today. Here joining me today, I have my friend Amanda Hodo, who's going to give us a wonderful talk today. We're super excited. So I want to thank everybody for joining us out there live. And for those of you tuning in after the fact, welcome to Sea Trek TV. And we are coming to you live from Mote Marine Laboratory in sunny, very beautiful Sarasota, Florida. Sorry for you out there that are experiencing a little bit of rough winter weather, but oh boy, we have a high, I think, of 85 today.
Yeah.
It's quite sunny and
toasty.
Beautiful here. Yes. So we welcome everybody out there. And by the way, happy Digital Learning Day. It is Digital Learning Day, so we thought we would bring you a special Sea Trek TV live stream all about Black History Month. So for those of you joining in live, I just want to remind you that we will be using the chat space feature to monitor any kind of status. If you're having troubles with audio or video, please use that chat space and our technicians behind the scene can help you out there. Also, if you have any questions that your students want to ask or that you want to ask, go ahead and use that chat space for that as well. We have over 600 participants joining us live, so the chat space is the best place for us to get that interaction happening this afternoon. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I want Amanda to introduce herself first of all, but then also, why don't you go ahead and introduce a little bit about Black History Month and why we're here today.
Sure. So, hi, I'm Amanda, and I'm really excited to be here today. So, we're here to celebrate Black History Month, and it's really important because Black History Month really shines light on some of the lesser known contributions and achievements of African Americans. And it actually originally started off as Negro History Week, and it didn't really take off for a few years, and this was in the 1920s. So it took a few years for it to kind of take off. It was celebrated in the second week of February, and it then kind of blossomed into a full month that was celebrated and became Black History Month. And it was started by Kent Clark University, and they really took it and ran with it and celebrated it, and it took off all over the country. So, but it actually is not just celebrated by the U.S. It's also celebrated by Canada and by the United Kingdom and also the Netherlands.
All right.
So the first two, so U.S. and Canada, we celebrated in February, but the latter two, the United Kingdom and the Netherlands, actually celebrated in October.
Oh, very interesting. So really kind of the grassroots efforts of Black History Month got started back in the 1920s, and then Kent State adopted it in like 1969 or so, and then within a few years it really started taking off, correct? That is awesome. So what we're going to do here this afternoon is, of course, we're going to tell Amanda's story, and we're going to get to that, and you're going to learn all about what she does right here at Mote Marine Laboratory. But we also, Amanda, has put together some wonderful vignettes, featurettes, if you will, of significant contributors to marine science. So we want to start off by celebrating these people. So we have our first two featurettes that Amanda is going to tell you all about. So let's get started with that.
Absolutely. So the first marine biologist that we're going to highlight today is Dr. Ernest Everett Just. Now, Dr. Just, he actually pioneered he was a pioneer as an African-American biologist. He was an academic and he was a science writer, and he was born on August 14th, 1883 in Charleston, South Carolina. And he graduated with the highest honors from Dartmouth University in 1907. And he was studying to be a zoologist, and specifically he wanted to study cells, so cytology. And later, after he received his degree, he became a professor at Howard University, which is a historically Black college and university, and was also a seasonal researcher at the Marine Biological Laboratory in Woods Hole, Massachusetts. While he was at Woods Hole, he studied the eggs of various marine invertebrates.
And I do believe that Dr. Just also published some books, which you see the covers of here. So the biology of the cell surface. And also there is a biography about Dr. Just, the Black Apollo of Science. So if anybody wants to check those out and kind of dive a little deeper into his profession and his contributions to marine science, you can find that there, the Black Apollo of Science. All right, so moving on to our second featurette here.
We have Dr. Roger ARLINER Young. She was born in Burgettstown, Pennsylvania in 1990 and was the first Black woman to earn a PhD in zoology and to conduct research at the prestigious Marine Biological Laboratory at Woods Hole, Massachusetts. So just like Dr. Ernest Everett does. Yeah. And Dr. Young conducted research on the anatomy of the paramecium, so in ciliates, and the effects of radiation on sea urchin eggs. So she did some amazing things.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, to honor Dr. ARLINER Young, there is a diversity fellowship out there. The Roger ARLINER Young, or RAY, Marine Conservation Diversity Fellowship, focus on increasing opportunities for people of color to learn about, engage with, and enter the marine science, environmental conservation, policy, and science fields. So if anybody out there is interested in that, you can go to a website. And that website, can we get that back up on the screen? Thank you. rayconservationfellows.org. So check that out because there are some really great opportunities out there. And wonderful that they honor some of these amazing people. Now, speaking of amazing people, Amanda, let's go ahead and hear your story. Give us a little bit of your background. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? And how did you get here to Sarasota?
Absolutely. So I'm actually born and raised in Chicago. So right in the city. And I was always interested in animals at a young age. So I had my sights set on being a veterinarian, actually. So when I was younger, I really, really wanted to be a vet. And then I kind of realized that that wasn't really going to happen because I was allergic to everything.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah.
So what about that kitty right there?
So that kitten right there, that was Tiger. And I actually grew up with him. So he lived until he was 14 or 15 years old.
Were you allergic to him?
I was allergic.
All right.
I was, but I just kind of, I guess, adapted to it. So I wasn't as allergic as I would be with another cat.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So I shadowed a couple veterinarians for a few days and kind of realized that it wasn't really going to work. But it's okay because I still really was interested in animals and interested in exploring what other fields
that's awesome. Good.
I could be involved with. And I actually really, really loved to swim and was put in swimming lessons at a really young age. So I took that and ran with it and actually became really interested in scuba diving too. So
excellent.
Yeah. So I did a lot of marine conservation programs when I was younger. One of them was called Fishin' Buddies, and I just want to give them a quick shout out because I heard that they are tuning in today. But I actually was helping to teach marine conservation to youth with that program. So,
and how old were you when you did that?
I was in high school, I believe, and
that is awesome.
I was teaching, and talking to kids that were younger than I was, but we're really engaged and we had a blast. And
that's really cool. And they are joining us today.
Awesome.
I hope they're there. Yeah. Excellent. All right. So you went throughout high school and you had this passion instilled in you. And then how did you start? Where did you go from there?
Yeah. So I actually did a lot of programs with the Shed Aquarium, which was right downtown, which was down the road from my high school, actually. So I did a lot of programs with the Shed Aquarium, one of them being high school marine biology. And that one really kind of took off with that. That really helped me take off with my interest in marine science and figure out that's what I wanted to do. So I spent a lot of time on a boat, on a research vessel, and got kind of my first taste of research and marine science. So I owe a lot to those programs. And then I went on to pursue aquarium sciences.
Very cool. So after high school, where did you go to school?
I went to college actually in rural Iowa.
All right.
So I went to Grinnell College, which is in Grinnell, Iowa, so a very small town. And I played soccer there, and there were literally cows on the pasture next to the field. So,
I'm a Midwest girl myself, so
yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, it was a blast, and it actually didn't have a marine biology program, but I just loved the school and got a great scholarship. So
good, and
it all worked out.
I think that's something important to note to young folks out there. You're from Chicago, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from North Dakota. We are Midwestern girls. And when it comes to college and comes to this field of marine science in particular, if you stay in the Midwest, because often going to college, you want to stay in your home state, or even if maybe there's some relationships with sister states that you might get in-state tuition costs, things like that.
Right.
Obviously, it's cheaper to go to school when you're in your home state. Keep in mind out there that if you want to go into marine science, if you do have this passion, that still go to your state college, go to your community college, but focus in on, say, a biology degree or a zoology degree. And so that's what I did my focus on, was my undergraduate degree is in biology. And I think you'll find that you get a nice rounded education. And it is possible. You don't always have to go to a school where there is a marine biology degree or anything that specific, because sometimes those schools, for the most part, are on the coast or in a completely different state that you're not from. So don't give up your dreams and just keep moving forward with that. So explore every avenue that you possibly can find. All right. So after Grinnell, what did you do? Did you move back to Chicago?
I did.
Briefly.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, before I did that, I went back to I went to Sarasota for
okay.
Yeah, so literally right after graduation, I did my internship with Mote Marine Laboratory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
excellent.
Right yeah.
So we're both college interns that are now staff.
Yes.
I like it.
Yes.
I like it.
Yes. The intern program here is great.
It is. It's phenomenal.
It's really great. I got so much experience doing such a wide array of things, and I really got a taste of what it was going to be like to be an aquarium biologist.
And I think that's something else that's really important to young people to keep in mind. A lot of people will ask us, how do I get into marine biology? How do I get into marine science? What do I do? So again, go to college, get a degree. It doesn't have to be specifically a marine biology degree. It can be biology, zoology, some general science. That's absolutely fine. But take as many volunteer opportunities as you can. Like, say you're in Iowa right now. Look around. Are there any zoos that are nearby that you could possibly volunteer at? Aquariums you could volunteer at? Are there veterinarian clinics that you can volunteer at? So getting that hands-on experience definitely helps. It helps with your resume to make you look more attractive to places. And then, of course, if you're in college, apply for a college internship.
Absolutely.
And there are so many college internship opportunities. And I will echo what you just said about it definitely helps you to discover where your passions lie, where your strengths lie. And oftentimes when folks do an internship or a volunteer experience, they might be thinking they're going in this direction. This is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. And you start volunteering or interning somewhere, and you might find that your passion and your strengths lie completely someplace you never even thought of.
Definitely.
So I think that's really important to keep an open mind. But again, keep that passion alive and know that you can definitely do it. Okay, so your internship at Mote Marine Laboratory. And what were you doing during your internship, just real briefly?
So my mentor was Brian Siegel, who works with our cephalopods here. So
octopus, squid, cuttlefish, cephalopods.
And I was working on a lot of his exhibits. So he had the cephalopod exhibits as well, but I also was doing feeding and taking care of various exhibits around Mote.
Okay.
So,
excellent.
And I remember one of the projects that I really enjoyed was making lids for the exhibits for some of these cephalopods, including the octopus. So it had to be a escape-proof lid. And it was really, really fun to make that, and then to be able to set it on the tank and actually see them using it.
Engineering that work. There you go. So if for those of you who don't know, octopus they're pretty sneaky animals.
They are,
and they're very flexible, and they can fit in very small spaces. So this octopus, even though it looks like it's a good size, can actually probably fit inside of like a mason jar, even
Absolutely.
a smaller opening than that. And kind of the rule of thumb, since they don't have any bones, they're invertebrates, the rule of thumb, correct me if I'm wrong, is they can fit in a space as big as their beak.
Exactly.
Right? Because that's really the only hard part on their body.
That's the only hard part, yeah.
So, aquarium biologists have to be engineers as well, because they definitely have to make sure that those animals don't escape.
Yeah.
Because that has happened.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, we're going to get to what Amanda does here currently at Mote. She's going to tell you all about it, and she's got some really cool stuff to share. But we want to get back to celebrating Black History Month with our featurettes with contributors to marine science. So let's go ahead and start our little next vignette.
So next up we have Joan Merle Owens, who is an educator and marine biologist that specialized in corals. So she was born in June of 1933 in Miami, Florida, and she graduated from George Washington University with a BS in geology in 1973, and then later an MS in 1976. But neither of these degrees was in biology. So she actually pursued her interests in education and teaching, and then went on later to pursue her interest in marine science. So, but she actually had sickle cell anemia traits, so that limited her ability to dive underwater. But that didn't stop her. I mean, she found ways to make it work, and she did her PhD using samples that had been collected from a British expedition in the past.
Wow.
As opposed to collecting live samples.
That's awesome.
It's pretty amazing.
That is really cool.
Can make it work.
Can make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, I was interested in animals, but I was allergic to everything
exactly.
First,
so you figure it out. Oh, I love it. This is great. All right, so next up we have
Dr. Dehana Figueroa, and she is a deep sea marine scientist and educator. So she received her BS in marine biology from the University of California, Los Angeles, and later a PhD in marine science from the University of California, Santa Barbara. And she spent a lot of years investigating deep sea ecosystems and what lies beneath.
Ooh.
Yeah. And she actually helped develop new instruments for deep sea research.
That's
and
awesome.
happened to be featured in James Cameron's Aliens of the Deep.
That's
cool. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. Oh, and I just heard that Dr. Figueroa has her own IMDb file. Ooh. Oh, see?
Goals.
If you, yes, absolutely. We don't have those. No. We do not. All right, Amanda. So let's talk a little bit about what you currently work with. You do not work with anything with fur.
I don't.
No, you do not.
I do not.
So let's talk about the cute little things that you work with.
Well, right now I am mainly working in the Seahorse Conservation Laboratory, and I work with those little adorable babies, and it's pretty fun. So there's just something so gratifying about raising something so tiny into an adult that's then having its own babies, and
I love it.
It's amazing.
Warm fuzzies.
I love it.
And it's, you know, it's the month of love as well. So
it
seahorses,
is. Yeah.
I always think of seahorses in the marine science world, a little bit representing love. For those of you out there, you want to tell them a little bit about why they're a little strange?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So they belong to the family of Signathids, and Signathids actually the male gives birth.
The male gives birth.
Yeah. So the male does all of the parental care. And in seahorses specifically, so the female will produce the eggs, and then she will pass the eggs to the male, and he will take them into a specially designed pouch that he has on his abdomen, where he will kind of incubate them and raise them for a couple of weeks. And then when it's time, he'll have contractions, and then out squirt
That's
tiny, fully formed baby
amazing.
Seahorses. Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, do these guys, so they have pretty elaborate courtship when they're trying to find a mate. Do they mate or pair up for life?
They do.
They do?
Yeah, they do. For the most part, they will stay together.
Okay.
And remain faithful to each other.
Oh, adorable. See, we told you. And their babies are called fry, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I do think you can give a little walkthrough of the Seahorse Conservation Lab.
I would love to.
Why don't we do that?
Let's do it. So this is actually the outside of the lab. This is what I think of as trying to draw people in and let them know that that's where the seahorses lie. So this is the actual window to the lab, so people can actually see me working as I'm cleaning and feeding and doing things. And the babies on the screen are my newest additions. They were born at the very end of January, and they are Hippocampus erectus or line seahorses, and that's the main species that we breed at Mote. So here you can see really, really small dots swimming around the screen with the baby seahorses, and that's actually their food.
Oh, okay.
So that is live brine shrimp.
Brine shrimp?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just baby forms of what people commonly know as sea
monkeys.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I always love throwing that fact out there.
Yeah.
Now, how long have you been staff at Mote?
I've been staff for 3 years.
For 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Now, I believe right here, are you going behind the scenes or no, we're going out front again, correct?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to prepare some food to feed the seahorses in the lab. So thankfully, the kitchen is pretty close to the lab, so I don't have too far to trek. But we keep all of our foods are frozen, and we thaw them and then feed them out. So that's just our frozen foods, though. We also raise and feed out our own live food in-house.
Excellent. So. And just a reminder out there, all the sites will be muted. And if you have any questions, please use that chat space out there. And Amanda is going to continue her walkthrough of a little bit of behind the scenes of the Seahorse Conservation Lab. And also, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but a cool thing about this is if people come and visit Mote Marine Laboratory, they can actually do a tour of the lab.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes tour. So you can check that out on our website at mote.org. So now here, so you prepared some food, and I think, what are you going to do next? I'm sure you're going to feed them, right?
Yeah. So I'm feeding some of our youngest babies in the lab. I'm feeding them Hikari mysis, which is a smaller species of mysis shrimp.
Okay.
Perfect for their little mouths.
Oh, I love it. And how do they feed? They have this very strange anatomy. So how do these animals feed?
They do. So their mouth is actually similar to a straw or a long tube, and they use it like a vacuum. So they just suck their food right up really quick. Right. And but they don't actually really have stomachs. So it just kind of passes through relatively quickly. And
wow.
Yeah. So they have to eat a lot.
So I'm going to guess you have to clean a lot.
I do. They keep me busy. They definitely keep me busy.
Now, do you feed them all day round the clock? Do certain tanks have certain feeding times? How does that work?
The babies typically get fed more often than the adults do, but they will be fed, 2 to 3 times a day.
Okay.
The adults.
And now this seahorse that we're showing on the screen, what's special about this one?
So this is Mama.
That's Mama?
Yeah, so that's, I call her Mrs. Martin.
Oh, I like it.
But she is the mother of a majority of the seahorses in the lab that I raised since I
That's amazing.
took over the lab. So, yeah, she's had
Mrs. Martin.
Thousands.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
She must be exhausted. Well, you help her out a lot, so that's good.
I do, but I'm exhausted looking at her. Yeah.
Seriously. So now I think we're going to look at a few other seahorses that we have here on site, but also we've got a question coming in from our audience out there.
Okay.
What is your absolute favorite species of seahorse?
Ooh. Okay, so.
And we're going to see a few more species in just a second, but
lovely.
Need to get this question
I think my favorite species of seahorse are pygmy seahorses.
Pygmies? Okay.
Pygmies.
And that's exactly what we're attempting to see right here. Oh, these are dwarf. These are not pygmy.
They do commonly get called pygmies, but they are dwarf seahorses. Yeah, but they're also one of my favorites. So I can go either way.
I love it. Now this species here is
this is a line seahorse.
Okay.
So just for size comparison, they can be around these are juveniles, and they're roughly 3.5, 4 inches head to tail.
And then what about those dwarf seahorses? How big are those?
Oh man, they're small.
They're tiny.
Yeah, their maximum size when they're adults is 1.5 inches.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so a lot of folks out here, and these are species that are native to Florida, these two that you just mentioned.
The dwarf seahorse and the line seahorses.
And a lot of people, I know when they're out enjoying our beaches,
Mhm.
and sometimes you'll find maybe some seagrass floating
Mhm.
or a little bit of sargassum floating. They'll find a seahorse in there, and oftentimes they think it's a baby, but a lot of times it's actually a dwarf
Yeah.
seahorse, and they
Mhm.
are really, really tiny.
Really small.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're really cool. I like those guys.
They're cute. They're so hairy when I see them out in the bay.
Yes, yeah, they're really cool. So here, that little guy, he is an adult. He just swam right behind the ruler. He's going to come up on the left side, and he's going to kind of hang on to it. And there's a baby that just went floating right in front of that ruler. So you can see how tiny, and that is an adult seahorse. And then compare that again to that lined seahorse.
Yeah, and that lined seahorse even has a little bit of growing to it that it can still do. So.
Excellent. These guys are so cool. I love them. All right, so let's talk about a few more things that you have to do here. So you definitely, you prep the food, you feed the seahorses, you clean their tanks. Now, what else are we looking at here? What else?
So right here, that is my typed up, neatly organized list of protocols. So we have a lot of rules in the lab about, you know, what tools you can use, where. So we do a lot of cleaning. And then I also do a lot of record keeping. So that's an integral part of my job, is keeping close records, and then we file those electronically as well. So we have records dating back to like before I was born. I mean, we're on it.
Yep.
We are
it
on
is quite amazing.
Yeah.
Lot of work. So I think a lot of people don't realize, working in an aquarium and working in husbandry or care for animals, of what exactly it entails.
Yeah.
And you guys have a lot of stuff to do, and I'm sure it keeps you busy.
It really
and
does.
Keeps every day kind of fresh and fun, really.
Yeah, every day isn't the same.
Now, what is the reasoning for us to even have the Seahorse Conservation Lab? What is the point of that?
So seahorse populations face a lot of different pressures. So mainly we have the pressure of the Asian medicine trade that is really declining seahorse populations all over the world. We also have certain populations of seahorses that are in aquariums and zoos. So the point of the Seahorse Conservation Lab is to breed seahorses so that we can then share them with other zoos and aquariums, and then they don't have to take animals from the wild to stock their own exhibits.
Excellent. So that is called surplusing.
Yes.
And we don't charge a fee for that, correct? When we send it to zoos and aquariums, I believe it's just shipping that we possibly charge,
shipping and a really, really small fee that doesn't even, that definitely doesn't cover what we put into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it just helps offset.
Yeah, absolutely. And seahorses aren't the only things that we surplus here at Mote Marine Laboratory. We surplus jellies, a few different species of fish, but it's super important for conserving those wild populations since they are so impacted. And seahorses are pretty sensitive animals. So we do have a question coming in from our audience. Is salt water pumped in from the bay, which for those of you who aren't familiar with Mote Marine Laboratory and our location in Sarasota, we literally sit on an island. It's called City Island in Sarasota Bay, which feeds right into the Gulf of Mexico. So is the salt water pumped in from the bay, or are the seahorses more particular, and do they need a specially mix of salt water?
That is a great question.
That is an awesome question.
A really awesome question. So we actually we actually do pull water in from the bay, but we filter it many times over before we use it in the aquarium. So we sterilize it and do all kinds of things to it to make sure that it's clean and going to be, you know, healthy for our animals.
Absolutely.
So for the seahorses in particular, they do like really, really clean water. So I do pull water in that has been filtered many times over from the bay, and then I can add fresh water to it to get it to the right salinity or saltiness for the seahorses. And then I can do water changes on their exhibit, which basically involves taking out dirty water and replacing it with clean water. So
you guys do so much.
Do a lot.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
So we have another question coming in. Why do the males give birth instead of the females?
That's a good one.
It might be a stumper. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that might be a stumper. I mean, they just kind of evolved that way.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some sort of advantage to that.
Yeah.
And gosh, I mean,
off the top of my head, I can think that like for the males, that's a way to ensure parentage is if you are holding on to your own babies that you fertilized, you know for sure you're the parent of those babies.
Oh, that is excellent. Yes.
Whereas for example, like cats,
Sure.
you can have multiple parents.
Yes.
Multiple.
And it's really the mother who gives the care. That is, yes.
Yeah, and
that
he
is
can ensure
fascinating.
their success too if he's the one taking care of them.
Absolutely. So. That is really cool. So how many fry are typically born at a time?
Depends on the species.
Oh,
so
okay.
In line seahorses, on average, it's around 200, 250 at a time. So yeah, tiring.
That is a lot of babies.
Yeah.
What about the dwarf seahorses?
So the dwarf seahorses, they're a lot smaller.
Yep.
But their babies, surprisingly, are not that small. They're pretty big.
Yeah.
Especially compared to the adults. They have some of the biggest babies for seahorses compared to their adult size.
Really?
But their pouches are only so big. So on average, they have around 20 or so.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what's a typical lifespan of a seahorse?
Again, depends on the species. Yeah. So for line seahorses, that lifespan is around 5 to 6 years.
Okay.
And on the other spectrum, I guess, you have potbelly seahorses, which are a cold water species found in Australia, and those live typically more around 8 to 10 years.
Okay.
Longer.
Okay. So again, and that's pretty typical of all different animals. It really does depend on the species.
It does.
Depends on where they live, what their food source is, things like that. And now it's not just seahorses you take care of.
That's
we have some other critters here at Mote that you look after. So let's learn a little bit about these guys.
Sure. They're very, very cool. These are ribbon pipefish, and I actually take care of our ribbon pipefish exhibit here. And I actually observed some courting action this morning. So
really?
Fingers crossed that there's some mating.
Yeah.
It's February.
That is awesome. Now, here's a look at one of our Signathid exhibits if you were to visit at Mote Marine Laboratory. Now, we have our pipefishes, of course, too, and those are related.
They are. They're
to
also
the seahorse.
Signathids.
Yes, Signathids. Now, what about these guys? Who are these guys?
So these are neon gobies, and these are actually one of the first fish species that I took care of when I became staff at Mote.
Okay.
And they are actually one of the first fish species that I bred.
Oh, very cool.
It was very, very exciting to breed gobies and start a breeding program with Christina Young, another biologist.
Excellent. Shout out to all the aquarium biologists here at Mote Marine Laboratory. We have an amazing staff, especially Adam Dolman, who's tuning in this afternoon as well. Now, why are those neon gobies important? What do we use them for? Because I think these guys are really cool.
They are really cool. They're really, I'm biased, but you know,
me too.
They're really cool. So they are actually cleaner fish.
Oh, okay.
And they will clean other fish. They will eat dead skin cells. They'll eat little bits of food that they leave behind, and they'll also eat parasites off of other fish.
That's awesome. So it's kind of a twofer that we use with these neon gobies. They're helping to keep our species healthy themselves by eating off parasites, cleaning off dead skin, things like that. But it it does a nice little job for you guys to make your job a little bit easier.
Exactly.
Yes.
And in the wild, they eat more parasites and things because at the aquarium, you know, all of our fish go through quarantine process to remove any diseases and help with any ailments. But in the actual aquarium, they focus more on cleaning up behind all the fish and cleaning the fish themselves.
Now, what we're looking at is an eel, and the little guy right there, that is a cleaner wrasse, pretty similar to those neon gobies, and really functions in that same way. Now, we have another question coming in from our virtual audience.
Awesome.
The male takes care of the babies, but at what point are the eggs fertilized? Before or after he takes them?
They're fertilized after.
Really?
So, yeah.
So the mama makes the eggs.
The mama makes the eggs. They swim up into the column together. They do their courtship dance. And then she has an ovipositor that comes out, which is how she passes him the eggs. And then he takes them into his specially designed pouch. And he kind of does this little like dance, and he evens them out in the pouch, gets them all nice and compact, you know. And then he fertilizes them.
That
also at the same time.
Is incredible. These animals are so cool. So if they're doing this courtship dance, they need fairly long or tall tanks, correct?
They do. Yeah. Yes, they need a certain height in the water column in order to complete that courtship and mating dance.
Awesome. That is so cool. Okay, so let's see here. So we talked a little bit about the work you've done here. Now, I think we have another featurette for some other people that have inspired you along the way.
Sweet.
And so let's talk about Dr. ASHANTI Johnson.
Let's. So Dr. ASHANTI Johnson is an American geochemist and chemical oceanographer. And she got her Bachelor's of Science in 1993 in Marine Science from Texas A&M University, Galveston, and her PhD in 1999 in Oceanography from Texas A&M University. And her specializations included aquatic radiogeochemistry. So a very, very complicated, intense field.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Now, I think we have a wonderful quote that we want to share from Dr. Johnson.
I remember reading this and thinking that I was feeling the same way. So I'm really excited to share this quote.
This is good.
Yeah. So she says, "For me, as a woman, as well as a minority, the challenge has always been feeling like I'm representing the entire African-American female population. Going into graduate school, there are these expectations that are placed on you by yourself to some extent, but also by others that you must succeed, because otherwise you are letting this huge population of people down. That can really be stressful. Going into an environment like oceanography, where there have traditionally not been as many women, you are faced with that. But as a minority, there is an even more of a challenge. For me, if somebody said, 'We don't expect you to make it,' I was going to show them that I could." And that is one of the things that I did. I know that if I'm able to succeed in these arenas, I'll make it a little easier for the next person coming behind me. That is one of the things I am committed to doing.
That is incredibly inspiring.
It is.
That's amazing. And I do think it is important to note that there aren't that many women in science, and marine science in particular, as researchers, scientists. And then also on top of that, if you add a person of color, there's even less of that. So I think the work that you're doing, the work that Dr. Johnson is doing, and all these other amazing people that we've highlighted today is truly incredible, inspirational. Break those glass ceilings.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Break 'em.
Now, somebody else that has inspired Amanda is Danny Washington. Now, both of us do know Danny, but why don't you tell us a little bit about her? She's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. So Danny graduated from the University of Miami, the School of Marine and Atmospheric Science, with a degree in marine science and biology in 2008, so relatively recently. And she also co-founded an organization and is a board member of Big Blue and You. And that's actually how I became familiar with Danny, because I literally was reading a 17 magazine and found a spread about, following your dreams and getting the career that you want. And they had an entire page devoted to Danny and what she did. And I was so inspired that I actually went on to the website and sent her a personal message, and then was put in contact with her and ended up meeting her while I was
really
an intern
awesome.
at Mote. So.
And it's really cool because Mote hosts something annually called the Youth Ocean Conservation Summit. And Danny is heavily involved in citizen science, and particularly in working with youth. And so she does come here quite often for the Youth Ocean Conservation Summit. And that is exactly where you met her. And that's where I first met Danny as well. She does some really inspirational work. And right now we want to show you a little video about Danny and her work. So let's check that out. And sorry about that. It sounded like we were having a little bit of issue with the audio. So we're going to troubleshoot that behind the scenes, and we'll hopefully get that figured out and bring that video back up so everybody can hear about Danny's wonderful work. Now, again, folks out there joining in live, go ahead and use that chat space if you have any questions for Amanda. So to kind of start wrapping things up a little bit, Amanda, what kind of words of wisdom would you give people out there?
Oh, man, so many.
Hey.
I think first and foremost, don't be afraid to put yourself out there, because I have, especially when I was contacting people that were inspiring to me, and it has worked out positively nearly every time. So when I reached out to Danny, I got a response. I wasn't expecting one, just because, you know, I'm sure they get tons of inquiries on a daily basis. And she responded, and I got to personally connect with her. Read lots of literature, because you will not only find out about people that are potentially doing the things that you want to do, but you can also see what organizations they're involved with, where they graduated from. So if you're looking at colleges, there's some ideas on where you could potentially attend college. And just really don't be afraid to make that first step.
Yeah.
And introduce yourself.
Absolutely. And again, going to school, sticking with school, if you're interested in marine science in particular, or any of the sciences or STEM fields, really, you know, stick with that math, stick with that engineering, stick with physics, stick with biology, chemistry, but also don't forget about some of the other classes or courses out there, things like your English literature courses, or even writing classes, because if you want to become a scientist and work in a field like marine science, you really need to be a well-rounded individual. Even speech classes, I know a lot of people dread speaking in public, but all of those things help you to be more confident, and again, to really put yourself out there. And if you try all these things, if you stick with it, if you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, like meaning, I feel like I don't like physics, like, is it going to work? Or, you know, I don't know if I want to work in a vet office. Give yourself a little bit of a push, and you never know where it's going to go. And you never know what kind of passion you're going to find.
Absolutely.
You might stumble upon it. A lot of what happens in science. So we have a question out there about how many marine biologists actually work here at Mote Marine Laboratory. Well, us as a lab, I believe we have around 200 paid staff. Now, it's not all 100% scientists and researchers, but rather we have administration staff, we have IT staff, we have educators on staff. And so we have about 18, oh gosh, I'm going to get this wrong, I think, 18 PhD level scientists.
Okay.
And we also have postdoctoral scientists that work here. We have aquarium biologists who work here, but about 200 staff. And that doesn't even count the over 1,600 volunteers that we have here.
Yeah, we have a very large volunteer base.
Huge volunteer base and volunteer corps that do everything from helping our aquarium biologists with food prep, but also working in our aquarium as docents, even working in our gift shop, things like that. So we have a wonderful group of people here that I hope I can speak for Amanda, but we definitely do think of Mote as a family. It is a wonderful institution. And we have another question out there, because this is actually where I was going to go next, is do all aquariums typically offer internships to college students? Most zoos and aquariums do.
They do. They do. It's important to note, too, though, that they are typically unpaid.
Yes. So intern equals free work.
Yeah.
Yes. But
it's usually
that
more intense
experience,
than volunteering.
yes, it is. Yeah, a little bit more intense than volunteering. That experience that you get, though, is invaluable.
Absolutely.
Invaluable. So there are a few places that you actually can check out different internships. In fact, the AZA website comes to mind. AZA is the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and you can find a list of all the facilities that are members of AZA and AZA accredited institutions, and they often will post job openings there, internship or volunteer opportunities there. So definitely look at that. Definitely look at the AZA website, and I believe it's aza.org.
It is.
So moving forward, what is Mote doing to promote diversity in the workforce? We're actually doing a lot. So we definitely try and recruit for minorities, want to give opportunities. We have some really great scholarship and research experiential undergraduate or REU experiences.
I actually received one of those scholarships to do my Mote internship.
See, there we go. So we actually do have a lot of opportunities here, especially in that college internship program. So we definitely want to encourage everybody out there to visit our website, mote.org. Also, we just made a pretty big announcement that we hope to move our public aquarium to another location, and we hope to build a new facility from the ground up, because we are literally running out of room here, running out of space, and busting at the seams. So all of our research, we have some satellite campuses around Florida, but the majority, a lot of our research does happen here in Sarasota, Florida, and our researchers are housed here. So if you want to learn more about this new exciting news that we have to expand our research and our reach, you can visit moteoceansforall.org. And that's a great website that has a lot of information about that new aquarium, that new space that we are hoping to build, so that we can reach more folks, more visitors that are coming to Florida, more people that live here locally in Florida, and give opportunity to local school children to visit our facility, and also expand our current research that's happening here at Mote, because we have a lot of amazing people that work here. It's really incredible.
And we're going to have space for more.
So we have got another question coming in from our virtual audience. What made you decide to become a marine biologist?
Well, I think it was those programs that I did with the Shed Aquarium.
Yeah.
So I knew that I was interested in conservation, but I think it was those programs that really, really gave me that push towards the ocean that I needed, you know. So the high school marine biology program with Shed Aquarium, that really changed my life. It was 2 weeks that I was on a research vessel in the Bahamas with other teenagers, and we had our own research projects, and I got my first taste of snorkeling in the ocean.
That's
and
really
it was pretty incredible. And I think that gave me the push that made me realize that marine biology is what I wanted to do. But at that point, I wasn't sure if it was research or aquarium biology.
Okay.
So I think the Mote internship really pushed me in the direction of the aquarist
That's
life.
awesome.
So.
And again, kind of exploring those websites of different zoos or aquariums that might be in your area. Check out what kind of educational programs that they offer, because do not discredit that. Like, there's so many amazing opportunities, like the one you're talking about with Shed Aquarium.
Yep.
Also here at Mote, we have summer camp programs, not even just summer. We have camp programs. We've expanded our camp programs to happen over the summer, but also during winter break, and also during spring break here locally. So check those out, because we have opportunities where you can travel down to our facility in the Keys and learn all about our coral reef biology, research, and restoration. So if you visit mote.org/camp, that's an opportunity. We have incredible, again, to mention those volunteers, we have an amazing volunteer corps here. We even have teen volunteers. So check out those local places. Again, even if it's a science museum in your area or a history museum, check out those opportunities that they might have, especially if you're a teenager, because those experiences are invaluable to teach you how to communicate with the public, how to public speak, and you just carry those, and it's definitely something that you can add to your resume as well. Here at Mote, we have very robust teen programs where we take our high school interns, we do research experiences, they get out on boats to tag spotted eagle rays and do photo ID with dolphins. So we do some amazing things, and we're not the only ones. There's so many places out there. Somebody asked about me. So since we're talking
Aw.
about education, that's very nice. Officially, I'm the senior coordinator for digital programs here at Mote, and typically I'm right here in our studio delivering live programs to classrooms here in North America, but really all over the world. Time zones are our only constraints, but we have some really great programs that Jason, who is behind the scenes, is my cohort. So we want to give a big shout out to Jason, who's doing everything behind the scenes. But he and I run our C-Trek TV digital learning programs, and we have such a wonderful time, connect with so many students and teachers out there, and adults as well. We'll connect with senior living centers, really anyone who wants to learn about the work that Mote Marine Laboratory is doing and about marine science. We can connect with you live for one-on-one sessions. But then a great part of my job is I get to do this kind of stuff. We get to do kind of one-off special events, live streams to talk about some amazing things and bring in amazing people that we know here at Mote to talk about their life and their work. So that's pretty exciting. So a couple more questions coming in, and we will have to start wrapping things up. But we've got, let's see, Ms. Hines is asking, what is the most unusual marine animal that you've ever encountered? And okay, we're going to start with that one, and then I'm going to go to the next one. Sorry, that was a preemptive giggle for the next one. So let's see, most unusual marine animal ever encountered. I might have to go with the batfish.
Those are weird.
They're so weird. Awesome. They're so cool.
They are.
And
really cool.
The one batfish, the one species, looks like it's wearing lipstick. There he is.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
They are totally bizarre.
They are.
They kind of perch on their fins, and they've got a little angler that they, but you know what, my all-time favorite, and a lot of people think this animal's really scary, the mantis shrimp.
That was what I was going to say.
Are you I'm sorry.
They're so weird.
Oh, I love these
so
guys.
Awesome.
These guys are incredible. Oh, yes. So fun thing about the mantis shrimp. So one of my favorite fun facts is that these guys have incredible vision.
They do.
Yeah. Incredible vision. So if we talk about the color receptors in our eyes, we have three. We have three color receptors, blue, green, and red. And so we can see in those colors and any combination of those colors. Dogs typically have two, blue and green. Butterflies have 5 color receptors, more than likely to see flowers, things like that. How many color receptors do you think the mantis shrimp has? Do you know?
I definitely think it's going to be probably around 50 or higher.
I mean, it's high.
Not that high.
Not that high.
Okay.
But still, 16. Wow. We have 3. They have 16. So imagine what do they see? Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
I love them.
I feel like I see a lot. But.
I know. It's amazing. Okay, so Alex wants to know what Nacho the nurse shark is doing.
Oh, man. Nacho the nurse shark. So I actually help train Nacho the nurse shark on Fridays.
Awesome.
And I absolutely love doing it. She is something. She really is. But she's doing great. We are working to get her target trained, and she follows it into our shallow pool. So we're working to hopefully get her stretcher trained soon. And that way we could then do blood draws if we need to, just physical exams. But she's doing well.
That's awesome.
She's doing really well.
I do have to say, nurse sharks are one of my top favorite species of sharks. I really, I didn't think much about them. And then working with a group of our teens, we got to visit the Bimini Biological Shark Lab.
Oh, yeah. I've been there.
And, you've been there too?
Yeah.
Oh, this place is incredible. And the nurse sharks, I learned so much about nurse sharks. And they are just amazing creatures. They're very docile. They're often called the laziest shark out there. You'll often see them just kind of lying at the floor of the ocean, but these guys are incredible. They have incredible suction when they feed. They're kind of a terminator of sharks, if you will. They're very cool.
Like that.
I love them. So we have another question. Can different species of seahorses live together? Can they get along? Do they compete for anything?
I mean, they would compete for food.
Sure.
And probably things to hold on to. They'd probably hold on to each other, but they would be fine.
All right. So
Pretty fun.
different species can live together. All right. So the last question we're going to take from our live audience before we wrap up is the male seahorse the only male that takes care of the babies, or are there other animals?
That's an awesome question.
That is a great
What
question.
a good question. Off the top of my head, I can think of a couple that I actually worked with when I first was hired at Mote. I was working in the Oh Baby Life Cycles of the Seas exhibit, and we highlighted a lot of different types of parental care under the sea, including jawfish. So jawfish are mouth brooders, and the male actually takes the fertilized eggs into his mouth and holds on to them for the entirety of their development.
That's insane.
It's
How does
crazy.
he eat?
So he can actually put them down and eat, but typically they'll spend most of their time holding on to them. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And on the other side of the spectrum, you have cichlids, which are also mouth brooders. The female holds on to them in her mouth, and then she just won't eat.
Wow.
Until they're ready to
That's amazing.
swim out. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank everybody out there for joining us. Now, we want to leave you with some words of wisdom of what else you can do to maybe learn a little bit more about the things we've talked about today, or to learn more about Mote Marine Laboratory. One thing you can do out there, whether you're an individual or, say, a classroom, you can adopt an animal here at Mote Marine Laboratory. Now, the adoption fees are anywhere from $30 up to $100. You can learn more about that from mote.org/adopt. And all the proceeds directly benefit Mote Aquarium and the animals that live there. And believe it or not, you can choose
a seahorse.
Yes, so you can adopt a seahorse, and you'll often get a package that looks like this that has a ton of really cool goodies in there, including an adoption certificate and more information about the animal or the species that you want to help take care of here at Mote. So that's really great. Of course, explore, explore, explore. Again, break those glass ceilings, explore what's out there. You can learn more about some of the folks that we've talked about. For example, Danny Washington has her very own website. You can find a lot of information about the work that she's doing out there if you visit her website. Visit AZA.org. We talked about jobs, internships, volunteer opportunities at zoos and aquariums. And don't be scared to reach out. You said, you know, get out there, put yourself out there. And if you find somebody that inspires you, like Miss Amanda, you can definitely get in touch with her if you visit our website at mote.org. So there's so many things you can do out there. Don't discount your passions. Don't discount where you're coming from, where you're growing up, anything. So, you know, really just keep those passions alive, and you will definitely find a way. So I hope everybody had a great time this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us and for celebrating Black History Month. Thank you so much, Amanda, for all your incredible work that you've done for this lesson today. We're super excited. Now, for those out there who couldn't join us, don't fret. We have recorded this, and we're going to have this posted for everybody to share and see and or watch again. So we hope everybody out there had a wonderful day today. Keep diving deeper every day, y'all, and we hope to see you again soon. Until next time, goodbye from SeaTrek TV and Mote Marine Laboratory.